Some days you just can't take it anymore. Sometimes you need to relax. Sometimes you need to breathe and watch the babbling brook flow by. Welcome to the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff. Hey guys, yeah, I know, kind of. Whoa, that didn't sound out right. I'm hearing it. See if that's better. Wow. What is the... Oh, it's coming out of the other computer. That's what's confusing me. No worries. All right, guys, welcome to the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff, as I am completely confused because Auntie's computer, as you can see, Auntie is my co-host here, and it's not muted. Silly Auntie. I'm going to have to mute that later because it's going to drive me nuts. But I do have a wonderful panel that's going to be talking about... We're going to start out just hanging out and talking about the new Dune trailer. For those of you that don't know, there is a trailer for the upcoming film Dune, and I asked everybody who is about to join us to watch said trailer before now. So hopefully they all did. So please welcome in no particular order, Darren Wagner, Captain Foley, Life with Matthew, and Loki himself. Or Loki, I should say. Welcome, guys. I hope that you are all well.
Hello.
Hello.
Doing good. Doing good.
All right, so... since I just kind of brought you up in random order, I'm going to turn my camera off for a second because I'm going to go mute that other computer before I go freaking nuts because I hear this echo on the other computer. But starting with Darren, since you're the one directly next to Auntie there, what were your thoughts looking at the new Dune trailer?
Well, I wasn't much of a Dune guy, you know, back in... By the way, you have to pronounce it Dune.
Dune?
Okay? Yes, you have to add at least 2 more syllables to the word. It's pronounced Dune. Okay. So what I thought of the Dune trailer was that they are clearly, obviously it's a remake. It's not a sequel to the David Lynch one. And I was very impressed with, first of all, the cast. I mean, you've got Aquaman in there, you got Poe Dameron in there, you got MJ in there, you got Thanos in there, you got Drax in there, you got Captain Tupolev in there, you've got all these great actors in there playing, you know, these other characters that, you know, are, you know, and so that was it. And then of course they saved the best part for the last part of the trailer, is the friggin' kaiju worms.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, the thing that I had totally forgotten about until the very end of the trailer, when oh yeah, those are in there too. But I like that they first throw us one of the more iconic parts of the movie. I did see the movie back when it came out, not in the theater, but when it came to the smaller screens. And the scene with, you know, putting your hand in the box was the one one of the iconic scenes of that film to me.
Right.
And I love that they put that in the trailer, so that I love it when they do that, when they don't tell you, okay, this is a Dune trailer. They just show you that scene and let you figure it out as it goes.
Right.
And then you're kind of like shocked. Oh, I'm watching a Dune trailer, you know, and they're redoing it. And when I heard about the trailer, I thought it was a TV show. I didn't realize it was an actual Hollywood production movie thing. And hopefully they will kind of stretch it out a little bit and make more than one movie out of the first story.
I heard it was going to be split in 2, but I haven't heard any confirmation this year on that.
Yeah, 2 is a good number. I think 2 is a good number. So that's how I felt about it.
So you're excited.
I'm actually, this is worth watching. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I was not a Dune guy. My grandfather was. He was a huge Herbert, whatever his name is, the guy who.
The author. Yeah.
The author. Yeah.
Is it Herbert? Was his last name, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Frank Herbert. Yeah.
Frank Herbert.
Thank you.
My grandfather read all the Asimov books, all the Herbert books, and such. And you know, right when Star Wars came out, that's when he gave up on science fiction. But when that movie came out, he was very interested in seeing it, and so I remember watching that with my grandfather.
All right, so Captain Foley, I know you were not a fan of the 1984 film.
That's right. So, boring, and it's just boring.
And that was actually probably the #1 complaint about that film. It was very. A lot of people thought it was too long. The problem is that there was so much story, and honestly, I like David Lynch as a director. I don't know that he was the best pick for Dune, but you know, all the and I don't know how they're going to do it in this new one, but all the spice, the worms.
It's called Dune.
Dune, yes.
Dune.
So, but all that being said, though, what was your impression of this trailer?
It looks like it won't bore me to death.
I will take that as a positive reaction.
Yeah, it looks really good. I mean, Sylvia's a huge fan of Dune, the original movie as well, and she was really blown away by it. And she was waiting for the worm at the end, but she kept saying, "Where's the worm?
And she got that worm.
She got the worm all right every night, baby."
Yeah.
Anyway,
you saw my last video, didn't you? Oh, sorry. By the way, I forgot, Badgie actually donated $1, so thank you, Badgie. For anybody that knows Badgie from Lower Deck, says, why doesn't the man I look up to, my god, Emperor Berto Prey, like me? It makes me sad. Well, because Berto Prey is a jerk. Sorry, Badgie, but we love you here. At least I do. I don't know what Loki thought of Badgie. I know that Matthew liked Badgie. I don't know what Darren, you haven't seen it yet, I presume. But we'll get to Badgie later. Right now we're talking about Dune. So Darren liked Dune. Captain Foley says it's not going to bore him to death. Life with Matthew. What did you think of the Dune trailer?
I thought it was a good Dune trailer. It's been a long time since I've seen the old Dune, the movie. I've read the book a little more recently. And some of the things they were saying, and it made me think that this might be kind of a combination between the first and second novels, maybe. Dune. Sorry, I gotta pronounce it right.
Why do we have to call it Dune? I'm a little confused on that.
Did you see the video that I sent you of the redubbed Dune trailer? That's how they pronounce it in that trailer.
Yes, but that was painful to watch.
That is hilarious. You have to watch that again.
So you should put the link to that in the chat so that everybody watching can understand why you keep calling it Dune.
Well, I refuse to call it that. I'll call it Dune. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's okay. You're Canadian. You can get you have a pass.
Okay.
It does look like they're combining some stuff. Which, I mean, let's be honest. If you've ever read the books, Dune doesn't really lend itself to being in a movie format. It's a very dry book, very slow burn, but a great book. Very, very well written. It's just there's a lot of stuff in there, and you can't fit it all into a movie. So it kind of makes sense that they might be borrowing some from the later novels to have it be a more action-packed, better paced movie format.
And so since Auntie has wandered away from her co-host duties, we'll kick her for right now and bring in Mr. CCDV. I apologize, Mr. CCDV. I meant to send you the link earlier. All right, so, but first, before we get to you, we got Loki in the house. Good to talk to you, my friend. So what did you think of the Dune trailer, my friend?
I definitely got Lynch vibes off of this. The visuals are very much like the first movie. The only thing I was missing is that soundtrack at the end where it's da 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 da.
Yeah.
Da da da. You know, but it looks good. The cast, Darren Wagner already covered that. The cast is absolutely phenomenal. I want to see it, but remember, we're talking about multiple movies here. This is not just going to be one movie. People are talking about it like it's going to be the Lord of the Rings of 2020. I think that's overhyping it, but I hope it is. Yeah. Like you said, I hope it is, but I think it's overhyping it. I think we're going to get a good movie. I want to see more. We got some in the trailer. Phenomenal cast. The sound was great. The visuals were great. It definitely looked like 1984 in some ways. You get that vibe when you put your hand in the box. Yes. You know, you're that nasty old bitch from the original movie, and you just got that vibe. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. I hope they're not overhyping it by saying it's going to be Lord of the Rings 2020, but I'm hoping it's good.
So, Mr. CCDV, have you seen the trailer? I forgot to send you the link for it.
I have seen the trailer.
What are your thoughts on it?
I have also read the script, by the way. There was a friend of mine who sent me the script, and so I read the script, and I've seen the trailer. I know for a fact that it ends after the spoiler alert, after the rebellion of Dr. Yui and the Harkonnens take over Dune.
That would make a logical breaking point.
So it will
basically
be a
ending with the battle where the Harkonnens kick their butts, and then we can see the revenge later.
There will be 2 movies of Dune, which makes sense because there's so much information packed into that first movie, the first novel, that you just have to break it up into 2 movies. I would prefer 3, but the first half of the novel is kind of boring. So
I have to say, now, for me, I think that, and I know I said this a little bit on a recent live stream, but this is how you reimagine something. Because the funny thing about this is, like, and I know that Loki mentioned this, but you take one look at this. If you don't know anything about Dune, except you might have seen the David Lynch movie 20 years ago, you know it's Dune right away. You recognize the still suits. You recognize the general look of Arrakis and all the stuff that we're seeing here. The box. All that stuff harkens back to the David Lynch film. In fact, me and Mrs. Antitrekker rewatched the David Lynch film recently, and it's really eerie how similar the box itself actually looks.
Yes,
it looks like it's the same box, except that this one has a little more detail.
I actually watched the David Lynch movie yesterday just to reacquaint myself with it. I watch it, constantly. But yesterday I watched it just specifically so I could compare it to the trailer for the
Right.
one that's coming out in December. And yes, the box is really eerily similar.
Not to mention the dialogue is there are some people that have done it already. If you look on YouTube, you can find a lot of comparisons of the original David Lynch film and this film, where they take the clips from David Lynch film and sync them up to this one, because like the dialogue around the box is virtually identical.
Are you talking about the first trailer that came out 6 months ago, or 4 or 5 months ago?
No, I'm talking. People have done this with the recent trailer.
Okay.
But yeah,
no, I was talking about the one that came out just a few months ago.
Okay.
That was just a teaser, really.
No, well, this is the 3-minute trailer that dropped. What was it, day before yesterday?
Yesterday, yes.
Yesterday.
Or Wednesday, correct? Yeah.
And no, I didn't. And Uncle Remus was asking who plays Fade. I don't think that Fade is mentioned in the trailer, and I couldn't find Fade listed in the cast. And it looks like Dave Bautista is playing the other brother. I can't remember his name.
Nephew.
Nephew.
Beast Raban.
The Beast Raban, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if they're kind of merging Fade and Raban into a single character, since they have Dave Bautista.
Not. They better have Fade as a different character.
Because it looked like Dave Bautista said, "I will kill him."
I heard they're bringing him in for part 2. He will be in part 2. He's just not going to be in part 1.
Fair enough. So he might not even be cast yet then.
Well, fair enough. All right. Fade really didn't play a big part in the first half of the book anyway.
Right. Well, and heck, in the David Lynch film, he just says, "I will kill him," a lot.
Well, that was Sting's first role, I think. It was his debut, and of course, later you see him in the Adventures of Baron Munchausen, and he's got lines later on. But that was his, get his feet wet, see if he can do this one simple job first.
Yeah. I will. So now, I know that Life with Matthew obviously knows the books. I don't know. Loki, you seem to be pretty well versed in Dune.
Yeah, I've read them all. I've read them all, including the prequel, the AI War or whatever they called it.
So here's a question I have for those of you that know the books. To me, it seems to make sense as a storytelling premise, but I'm just curious if it's accurate to the books. I like Paul being young. And because this Paul is like a kid compared to Paul from the David Lynch film. And I think that
in the book. He's younger in the book.
Paul is only 15 years old in the book.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes sense then. And I like that. It kind of reminds me in a way of Tom Holland being Spider-Man. They finally got the age right,
Now, mind you, the book actually spans about 7 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So Paul actually becomes an adult and grows into his manhood as Duke Paul Moadi Atreides.
Right. Which, unfortunately, to do it well in a movie format means you'd have to take 7 years to film it.
Yeah.
Because you'd really want to cast someone who's like 15 and hope that he doesn't turn ugly by the time that he's 22.
Yeah. Like what happened to that young Stark kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you get someone like me to play a young Ryan Johnson, and you just gotta make sure they look alike when you're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's.
Now,
Go ahead.
I had a question. I remember a lot of sci-fi movie-going fans that didn't like the end of Dune when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Paul thanks God for what they have.
That felt to me like they were putting too much from the book into one movie. That's where it felt a little disappointing.
What is that all about?
There were two problems with that. Of course, you had it was in 1984 to begin with. And so you had the presidential reformation, I guess is a good way of saying it.
Okay.
Where you had the conservatives that were backing Reagan at the time, and no one wanted to offend the Reagan administration.
Because Reagan was a very popular president.
Yes, and he had the Christian coalition behind him at the time.
Okay.
And so you could not offend that. Now, the problem is that, my avatar shows it all. Leto II becomes God Emperor of Dune.
Okay.
And he can see the future and the past, and he puts humanity on the golden path to defeat the machines finally as the Kwisatz Haderach. But I mean, that's getting way past this movie. This movie specifically deals with the Atreides have to leave their home world and go to Arrakis. They have to deal with the Harkonnen treachery, and then eventually they're able to come back Paul is able to come back, but he creates a jihad, which goes throughout the entire universe. So,
and that was the destiny of the Fremen, was to go out
in
and
1984. In 1984, it was not politically viable, not financially viable at that time to go that route. And so what they did was change the end so Paul could kill with a word, which he never did in the novels. So he could kill with a word, and then he thanked God for his ability to do that. Okay. So it's a nod to the political ideology of the time.
Okay, so God is not really a huge part of the book then, would you say?
Oh no! Religion is a huge part of the book. I
didn't say religion. I just said God.
Yeah. Their God, religion, and all that was a huge part of the books, because the way they looked at it was when the AI took over, they had turned their back on all of that. When the AIs took over and the machines took over, the thinking machines, they had become decadent. They had become lazy. They had turned their back on religion. And Leto is the original Atreides, was the one who brought them back in line and led them to victory against the machines. And supposedly the Harkonnens were secretly working against them and working with the machines. But in the end, they, of course, helped the humans because they saw which way the wind was blowing.
Okay. You know, it's interesting you talk about the new one looking more age appropriate. I'm looking at the three versions that we've had of Paul Atreides and with Kyle MacLachlan. Then you had Alec Newman, who Star Trek fans know from playing Malak in Enterprise, the would-be leader of the Augments in the 4th season. He played Paul Atreides in the Dune miniseries. And then you've got this guy here, new guy. And it looked like the Pauls were getting older, and now they've corrected the age. It's kind of interesting to look at.
Yeah, the sci-fi miniseries was good as far as storytelling was concerned.
Yeah, but not set design or costumes or anything else.
I never saw the Sci-Fi Channel version. I've heard nothing good about it. So
it was so much more entertaining than the movie.
What was it? I don't know. I assume the pacing would have been a little more brisk.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was much better as far as the original series. I really like Children of Dune. The problem is they mashed together Messiah of Dune and Children of Dune at the same time. And
now,
it really
how many of the books is Paul Atreides in?
He's in 3 of them.
Okay. So conceivably they could make, probably 5-6 movies then with this actor as Paul Atreides, assuming that it's as good as it looks.
Okay, let me clarify, because Brian Herbert took over the series after Frank Herbert died.
Right.
And so Brian Herbert wrote Paul of Dune, and there's another one. So technically, if you take all of it as canon, which of course Stone Loki is doing, and so I will go along with that. If you take all of it as canon, he's in 5 books.
Okay. So they do have plenty of material to work with.
Oh yeah. Brian went back and wrote about the houses, the different houses, and how the houses were established. And there is a ton of stuff they could pull from if they want to make more movies. It could be a damn James Bond series if they want to.
It could be, yeah.
No, I remember go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, because I have a question I specifically want to ask Captain Foley, because his avatar made me think of it. So, Captain Foley, are you going to make a Trek Yards variant of Badgie?
We already did.
Did you? Okay. Did you animate him?
No, not yet.
Oh, terrible of you.
Yeah.
I know.
You should hire Joshua to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I was just wondering about that because your badge there made me think, okay. So, quick question, go around the room real fast. Yes or no? Badgie is awesome. Darren.
I don't watch Lower Decks at the moment.
All right. Captain Foley.
Yes.
Live with Matthew.
Yes.
Loki.
Haven't seen it yet.
Okay. CCDV.
I did not like Badgie.
You didn't like Badgie?
Did not like Badgie.
You didn't like the happy-go-lucky comm badge that was going to rip off and wear your skin?
You know for a fact that I have been 6 to 8 out of all of these episodes so far. This episode was 4 for me. I did not like this episode so much.
Wow. I think now I gotta say I thought this was the funniest episode. I mean, just pound for pound laughs. I couldn't stop laughing at Badgie.
So is Badgie just like a mascot of some kind,
no,
like
Badgie,
like Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park?
No, Badgie is a direct reference to Clippy from Microsoft Office.
Okay.
What happened is one of the characters, Rutherford, is experimenting with learning how to code holodeck programs, and so he creates Badgie, which is like a user interface to help you set up holodeck programs. And of course, whenever you ask Badgie to do something, he freezes mid-sentence and a little loading bar pops up on him, and you got to wait for the loading bar to finish before he can finish his sentence and then create the holographic presentation you're after. But the safeties get turned off, and Badgie goes all homicidal.
So in 10 years, will people be getting this reference?
It depends on how well Lower Decks does.
I'm not sure that people got the reference now.
Yeah, because I know nothing about Clippy.
Really?
So, really.
Oh, wow.
I'll just think the DNA guy in Jurassic Park.
Or I mean, I thought he was. I mean, when I looked at him, I thought, well, that's just a parody of all the characters like that, like Cappy and Bottle from Fallout 4, and all these other,
well,
little
those
mascots.
all originated with Clippy, though. That was the thing. Is that
what was so how long ago was Clippy a thing?
2007.
Oh, 90. So it is already a dated reference today. Okay.
Well,
Gotcha.
like Life with Matthew, Clippy continued into the mid-aughts.
2010s, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was underwater then. I was underwater.
It just used to be that.
Super Blabberpuss says that Darren's a Macintosh user. That must be it.
No.
It used to be that as soon as you opened up Word or Excel or anything the first time, the Microsoft clip art thing would come up. And you'd be like, "Hi, I'm here to help you do stuff." And it's like, "Yeah, I know how to use Office. Go away."
Was he a paperclip?
Yes.
Yes.
That's why it's called Clippy.
Okay. I do remember that when I bought my first computer in 2000. So yeah. But I didn't know he had a name.
Yeah,
and I never used him. I shut him off the first day I had the computer. So
most people did.
Yeah. Badgie is the holodeck equivalent of Clippy. Except that and the thing is that like all things in Lower Decks is that they try to poke fun at Star Trek tropes, and one of the big tropes they hit in this episode is the holodeck episode, where no matter what's happening in the holodeck, the safeties get turned off and something goes horribly wrong. And that's exactly what happens.
Which is why I hate holodeck episodes.
Me too. And that's why I like this episode of Lower Decks, is because they poke fun of that directly.
O'Brien even made a mention of it, saying we could keep the holodecks safe and working properly.
Speaking of now, the Fed puts it in a $5 super chat. I don't mean to cut you off, CC, but I since when people throw money at me, I gotta say, hey, thank you. But the Fed says, I liked Badgie, but only because it reminds me of my experiences with wannabe normie pleasant programmers. Nice, shiny, and so buggy and unoptimized. And that definitely sums up Badgie. And so, yeah, when you see it, Darren, at one point, so Badgie is like freezing up. You know, the loading bar keeps freezing. And so Rutherford literally kicks Badgie where a man's privates would be, right? Except just to kind of get it going. And it works. It gets Badgie working. But then right after that is when the safeties get shut off. And so Badgie gets pissed about it. And that's why he goes homicidal.
So my where I currently stand with Lower Decks is I'm not subscribed to CBS All Access, and I in general the premise of the show didn't appeal to me at all. But the more good things I hear about it, and the more interviews I see on for example Trek Yards with the creator, the more I'm intrigued by it. And so I may have to once it's bingeable the whole season, I might actually go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and I would say, I know that a lot of people are iffy on the whole premise of the show. And so, with folks like that, I would say, yeah, wait until the series is done, and then you can get 1 month of CBS All Access and binge the whole thing.
And just be ready for the fact that the first 2 episodes are really hard to get through because
the first 2 episodes are really just set up for the third.
Very, very Mariner centric.
Yeah, and they did that with STD too. I mean, Star Trek Discovery. They had, instead of having a 2-hour pilot, they broke it up into 2 episodes, and it's like, can you make a 1-episode pilot, introductory story anymore? I mean,
the funny thing is, and I don't know, Stone Loki, I don't know where you stand on Lower Decks, if you love it, hate it, but the thing about episode 3 was the real turning point for me on the show, because episode 1 and episode 2 felt like Mariner was just Michael Burnham 2.0. That Mariner's a Mary Sue. Mariner's going to be the focus of everything. It's all about how awesome Mariner is. And then in episode 3, Mariner gets her comeuppance. And then episodes 4, 5, and 6 have been less Mariner-centric than episodes 1 and 2. And in fact, episode 6 in particular, Mariner didn't get much more screen time than anybody else. So
yeah, you get less Mariner than anyone else.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of The Simpsons when they first came out. The first 2 seasons, they were pushing Bart Simpson the whole time, but the one that the fans glommed onto and made the star of the show was Homer.
Right.
Yep.
And so they initially give us, hey, this obnoxious kid, he's funny, and then all of a sudden it's the dad. He's the comedy gold of the show.
Right. And it's like, donuts became a thing, and of course, dough and all that.
Yeah.
Why you little?
And I think it's because so many dads wanted to be like Homer. They just, when their kids act up, they want to strangle them, but they can't, so they can live vicariously through Homer. And of course, who doesn't enjoy good donuts?
Yeah. But I've been very impressed with the ship design. I kind of wish the guys that were designing the Lower Deck ships were designing, the regular shows.
Remember, Entenmann's, the ultimate donut. This episode is not brought to you by Entenmann's. Okay, go ahead, Darren.
I'm just saying that, the ship designs, I'm actually more pleased with those than anything else, even though they're animated. And, I kind of wish the guys that were designing those ships were the guys that were designing the shows, the ships on the other two shows. But
well, I know that Captain Foley. Now, I'm not a big fan of the California class, but is it called the Parliament class? Is that the other one?
Yes.
I really like the Parliament. What was your guys' take on it?
I thought it was great. It's a fantastic design, actually.
Yeah, I think the Parliament could have made a great ship on TNG or Picard.
My theory on the Parliament was it was one of the initial sketches for the ship, and they're like, no, that looks too cool. Hold that in reserve. We need the ship to look uglier.
Yeah.
I like underslung nacelles on ships too. I think it makes them look, Federation ships that is, it makes them look more aggressive. So I kind of like that aspect.
See, I was never a big fan of the underslung nacelle.
Really?
I really was not. No.
See,
I always loved the Miranda and the Nebula.
Yeah,
the Nebula in particular. The war version with the torpedo add-on the top instead of the dish. I'd love that.
And I gotta say, I think that the Reliant was, you know, at that point, I just fell in love with that design.
Yeah. And that was a mistake to have it. They filmed it and they flipped it upside down by mistake, and they said, no, that's perfect. Keep it without the nacelles up. The nacelles were supposed to be up. And they flipped it by mistake, and they said, no, that looks perfect. Keep it that way.
Yeah, it turned out to be better.
And they didn't film it like that. It was as it was handed across the desk. It was handed upside down, and it was signed off on upside down.
Upside down. So that's how they interpreted it.
So the sketch was actually originally with the nacelles above, but they looked at it upside down. And
Eagle Moss has released a concept Reliant that has it the original way.
Very cool.
No, my favorite was the NX-01 with the nacelles just barely off the body of the ship.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
Now, we do have a couple of super chats. Let me get to these real quick, and then we'll get back to our chatting about stuff. Mortimus puts in $5. Thank you, my friend. Says, how did everyone feel about Clippy beheading holodeck characters with all the gore and snapping of the necks?
It didn't bother me at all. I thought it was hilarious.
And normally what and I always say, look, I don't mind graphic content as long as it serves the story. And what they were doing here was basically showing you what holodeck programs gone wrong should look like. And so I actually took it as serving the story. What about you, Matthew?
I laughed. I laughed so hard because there's a big difference between animated violence that isn't something like Attack on the Titans and live action violence, where like a Kill Bill, where you cut off the guy's head and you got a fountain coming up for a minute. And so this was very much cartoon animated violence, and it was done just to be funny, and it came off hilarious to me.
Now, Loki, you haven't seen this one yet, right?
Nope, I haven't seen the last episode yet.
All right, so and then Ensign Ricky says that Badgie is my spirit animal. Thank you, Ensign Ricky, for the couple of bucks. I think that's going to be a thing moving forward. I think Badgie is going to be one of those things that people are going to latch onto and want to see more of. I think
it's totally marketable too. I want one sitting on my monitor.
Absolutely, I'm thinking about 3D printing a Badgie. I really
kind of like.
You mean CBS actually came out with something that people want to buy? New Trek.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I think Badgie would be a huge buy for everybody. I think Badgie would be huge.
I agree. I think Badgie could be the first. Badgie could be the baby Yoda of New Trek. I mean,
I just imagine you got like a little 10-inch plush toy you can sit on your shelf somewhere.
And you know what would be great is if you could. We got to talk, Matthew, because you make a Badgie and you like squeeze his belly. I'm gonna rip your flesh, All right, so and the Fed puts in $5 more. Thank you, my friend. Says we just need a USS London or better, the USS Britannia now. Bring some Imperial level class. Yes, to go against the Parliament class, we need an Imperial class for our friends on the other side of the pond. So you know what? I don't know. And I know I shouldn't be asking Captain Foley this, but did you get any hints at any upcoming ships coming for future episodes?
No.
Okay.
There are some ones coming though.
He did say. Well, I didn't mean like. Did you get any specifics? But there are more classes coming.
Yes, there are.
Good. Yeah. So hopefully, so far, except for the California class, I've liked the ships. So hopefully, maybe we will get some kind of Imperial class.
Did the creator say whether or not the little pod on the California class that's in between the nacelles is actually manned or not?
It is, and it's the engineering room.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't they say there's a turbo lift that goes down those ridiculous pylons?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I don't buy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't buy it either.
If they had done it a little more timing wise, I could just see you got the first episode, Boimler's doing his wannabe captain's log, and the hard screech moment isn't him getting cut in the leg, but instead like you zoom out of the ship and you find out that they've recovered the Enterprise's D saucer section, and they just slapped on some nacelles and called it a day and sent off this crappy crew just because they needed a ship to like, oh well, we're gearing up for military, so now we're stuck with this thing.
Oh man, you know what they should have done something like, you know, I love what you're thinking, and in fact, that could be even a flashback episode where like they're saying, "Wow, you know, where did this type of ship even come from?" And then you flash back, and this I could definitely see this. They flash back to like a Nebula class ship and a Galaxy class ship tractoring up the saucer of the Enterprise D, and then they glue a couple of pylons on it, and the chief engineer that's on the Enterprise D trying to get the warp nacelles hooked up is like, dude, we totally got this. And they're like, what are we gonna call this ship? I don't know, dude. And
they can even have a joke in there being like, you know, something about the Galaxy class ships. The main section would get blown up and we'd be stuck with all these saucer sections floating in space.
I think that there's I think there's room for that. I think that the way that this show is going, if they, you know, and I know that the fandom is still a little divided on this show, but I do think that more people are warming up to this show than Picard and Discovery. Like, I think Discovery season 3 is going to have a very tough time winning over, you know, people that have been really kind of felt burned by the first 2 seasons.
Yeah, I do give the creator of Lower Decks credit also for attempting to do a class name theme with
right.
His
That's
ships.
something you told me you appreciate as a naval man.
I appreciated the attempt. He didn't do it right, but I appreciate the attempt. Because if he's going to be naming a class after cities in California, it wouldn't be called the California class because California is a state.
Right, be like the San Francisco class or something.
Right.
And then
Yeah. So I mean,
the Cerritos class. And
Yeah.
if anyone grew up in South Central Los Angeles, you know where Cerritos is.
right.
But and they couldn't call it Los Angeles because there's a Los Angeles class sub. But
They could have done that. I wouldn't have minded. But I mean, you know, there's other great sounding cities and towns in California.
right,
You know,
Sacramento
so I mean,
class.
yeah, San Diego. I mean, they could have done all kinds of things. But yeah. I mean,
I like that it came from my hometown area. Shut up, you.
And the Fed puts in another $5, says, fun little idea. Have the badass ship that appears, which stands above the Parliament class and California class, be a Sabre class crewed by the SCE? Who's the SCE? I don't get that reference.
I loved the screen. Somebody sent me a screenshot from Lower Decks of a Olympic class ship docked at Deep Space Nine, and I was like, oh, you know, the first time we saw Deep Space Nine since the end of that show. I'm like, so I was, you know, as you know, I'm a huge Deep Space Nine fan, so I was like, looking at that image from every angle possible.
Authentic uniforms and all that. That was something that I was impressed. Oh, SCE, Starfleet Corps of Engineers. Thank you. I didn't get
that was Deep Space 3 that they were at. Was I wrong?
Well, that wouldn't be.
No.
That wouldn't make sense if that was the case.
Yeah, because it was the Cardassian design, and and I know that Mariner said she was at Deep Space 3 at one point, but I don't think she was referring specifically to that flashback.
She said that in the last.
Okay,
last
not
episode.
that.
That's
Right.
she saw the
Flashback. Okay, I apologize.
No,
Gotcha.
and because that's fair, but I do think that. And Captain Foley, you talk to the man, but watching you guys interact with Mike McMahon, I get the feeling that he is one of us.
Oh, absolutely, he is.
Yeah.
One of us. One of us. One of us.
Kind of reminds me of what Seth MacFarlane did with the Orville. He initially sold it as a comedy, but then it is funny, but it's not always funny. You know what I mean? It's kind of like MASH. It's kind of like MASH. It was originally a strict comedy, and then it became a drama that was occasionally funny. You know.
Well, that's because what's his name became director.
Yeah, and I think that McMahon. I keep forgetting his name. Mike McMahon. Yeah, as opposed to Vince McMahon.
Right.
But I think Mike McMahon probably sold it as a funny cartoon, but I think he might be gradually changing it into something. It's still going to be funny, of course, but it's going to have other elements mixed into it.
But you know what really sets this one apart, Darren, is for me at least, and the rest of you can chime in on this. But what makes this different than Discovery or Picard is that this looks and feels like it belongs in the TNG universe. The only thing that kind of makes me cringe when it happens is their pervasive use of language, but that's bleeped out. I don't like that, but I can deal with that if we're getting stuff that feels like it belongs in Star Trek, as opposed to Discovery and Picard feel like there's something else that has the Star Trek name on it. What do you guys think?
I have to go in design. The original ship, where they got the idea for this ship, is TOS. If you look in Scotty's technical manual for the original designs, there's a Dreadnought class with a third nacelle. You get that next gen. There's also a freighter class with longer pylons and nacelles that come down, but it's got like a tube underneath it.
Yeah, like a tug, right?
Like a tug, and
it is a tug. I got the technical.
That's almost what you're getting here without that big tank underneath.
Here we go.
Yep.
So this is the Class 1 heavy tug, and it does look, especially from the side, it does look remarkably like the Cerritos.
Yep.
And so I would not be the slightest bit surprised if McMahon has one of these technical manuals, and that's where he got the idea.
He for sure does. Like, even when we asked him about the registry number, he said the reason it's on the back there is because this is the thing that's going to be towing other ships, so it doesn't need it loud and proud up front.
Right.
You'll be seeing it from the back, and he said it's kind of like a little tramp stamp, just peeking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. I did catch that part of your interview, and I thought that was kind of cool. That even though, you know, and Darren and I argued about it a little bit on Skype, but I kind of dig that he had a reasoning for putting it back there, even if it does seem a little odd.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, all the other ships have it. The refit has a registry back there too on the saucer.
Yeah, but on the Cerritos, it's only on the back.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know that bugs me a little bit too. But
it didn't bother me at all. I don't know. Was that our argument? Because I can't remember this one. But
well, yeah, you were saying it bugged you a little bit because, well, you know, so wait, why would only this ship have it? You know, why not?
No, I don't think you had that argument with me. I think you had it with somebody else.
Maybe it was. But Mortimus puts in 5 Canadian bucks. Thank you, my friend. Says apparently they teased Q, John DeLance showing up in Lower Decks. What are you guys hoping for in the way of Q on Lower Decks?
I am very glad that they only referenced Q.
So far, but Q does appear in the trailer.
Yeah, he fully showed up. I mean, there was no tease or reference. It was, and here's Q now.
Yeah. Now, my understanding is, and I don't know if McMahon told you guys anything about it, Captain Foley, but my understanding is the Q appearance is really, it's just a cameo. It's not, he's not a major part of an episode.
No, it's like it'll probably be an opening sequence before the titles,
right?
Kind of thing. It's going to be very short.
There was a episode that was written for TNG that they never filmed. It got ruled out for one of the seasons because it would have been too makeup intensive for the show, in which the Federation was reaching out to a race to join them, but the only caveat was they hated Klingons. So Worf was going to have to stay in his quarters for the duration of the mission, and Q shows up and changes everybody in the ship into a Klingon. and they actually did use that story in one of the DC comics of you know from TNG, and I'm wondering if that's the perfect kind of comedic thing to have to do with the Cerritos,
right?
You know,
I could see that, and you know the funny thing is that I know that a lot of people are excited about the idea of Q. I don't know that, you know, John DeLance would be pretty expensive to get to do an entire episode or even a bunch of episodes, because everybody would want to see him just completely mess with the crew of the Cerritos. Right. And Q would be more than happy to oblige. And I do think that could be fun. He
could also break the fourth wall as well. So much better just by his very nature. So
yeah, if DeLance wanted to do, he could become the Deadpool of the Star Trek universe. You know, in at least in the animated format, and I think that could be hilarious. You know, it's like, you know, like I could even see him snapping his fingers or something to mess with somebody, and says, "Yeah, you know, this is so much better than when I was on DS9 that one episode." Yeah. Oh, anyway,
referencing that. Yeah,
I think he's going to show up and realize he's not on the Enterprise, and then just get out. And that's going to be the end of his cameo.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It's like, oh, where's Picard? Oh, this isn't the Enterprise. I'm out of here. You know, something like that.
Well, I really think he was referenced twice in this last episode. I think he's going to show up and say, would you guys stop summoning me or calling my name? You guys are not as cool as the Enterprise or something.
Well, and you know, he was also referenced in the one where with the Ascension. They mentioned like the Traveler or a Q or something else. So he was mentioned. He's been mentioned in 2 episodes now. And Feds puts in another $5. Thank you, Fed, and says, "Let's be honest with ourselves. It's good to have Trek in the hands of a fan, McMahon, and not normies whom know not the marvel they wield." On that, you know, especially with the animated format, I tend to agree. I think that. You know, no disrespect intended to Kurtzman, but I don't think that he may appreciate Trek as a franchise, but I don't think he gets it. You know, because his vision of Trek is to put a different stamp on it, to make it different, to mold it into something darker and bleaker, and some people like that. But you know, McMahon's vision of Trek is light and fun and optimistic, and that's kind of what Trek was built on.
That is what we grew up on. I mean, we grew up on a light, futuristic, optimistic Trek.
Right.
And what we've been getting lately is a Trek that everybody goes, "Oh, well, our modern society is so bad." Well, guess what? In the 60s, modern society wasn't all that great.
Right.
Well,
right.
Did you just say, with all due respect to Kurtzman? And
Yes.
Why? The guy's a fucking idiot. Fucking hate that guy.
Been hitting the Crown Royal a bit?
No,
I'll tell you that I'll tell you this, Catafoli, and I've said this on my streams a few times. I'm separating, and I've been conscious about doing this. I'm separating my anger over what I've seen Star Trek become in the form of Discovery and Picard with direct hatred of a man who I have never met.
I'm not.
Well,
he fucked up Transformers too. So fuck him.
But that's and that's your prerogative.
The Mummy.
And and you certainly are entitled to your feelings on it, but I'm not going to hate, because here's the problem. And this is what, and I've seen this in a lot of the Phantom Menace, and I don't like it, is that a lot of people are unwilling to give Lower Decks a try because it lists Kurtzman as executive producer in the credits, and it probably all Trek will list him in the credits until Kurtzman either quits or is fired or something. Or but dies. But even if he dies, then he'll be posthumously put in the credits, just like Gene Roddenberry. And it's not like Gene Roddenberry had anything to do with any of the recent Star Trek. And to even say, and to some people, to even say based on Star Trek by Gene Roddenberry is an insult.
Right.
So I'm not going to hate on the man just to hate on him, because if I was, I wouldn't have watched Lower Decks, or I would have gone into it with a negative attitude. As it was, I went into it being as neutral on it, and I was pleasantly surprised that, hey, McMahon seems to understand Trek.
Well, I hate the guy, but I still watch all Trek, so I mean...
No, I get it.
Yeah.
And Fluggerville says, this is a terrible Dune stream.
So I have a question, one more question for the people, if we can get back to Dune for just a second. When I watched the movie back when I was a kid, there was this ugly looking big monstrosity guy floating around.
Yeah, that was the Baron Harkonnen.
Vladimir.
No. This was not a human being. This was a
you're talking about the Navigator.
Yes. What was that all about?
They're mutated
Eric,
because of the
actually.
spice.
His name is Eric.
How far into spoilers do you want us to go? Because that's kind of an important thing.
I just want to know the concept. What was I looking at?
He's
But
a
he used
mutated
to be
human.
a human. Yeah, he used
Mutated human. Okay, gotcha. And so he took too much of the good stuff, and now he's all messed up.
That is exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
In fact, because the concept, and you guys that have read the books, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but the concept is that in order to fold space, which is their method of faster than light travel, you have to basically possess this superhuman ability. The only way to have that ability is to ingest huge quantities of spice, which over time mutates you into that.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't start it out that way. They slip it into their food. They have a little bit of it in the air, but eventually they throw them in a room and they blast them with concentrated spice. It saturates into their body, and they become that mutated thing. The guys that are standing there in the movie that look all mutated, mussed up, they're in the middle of that transformation.
Gotcha. Oh, I didn't know that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah,
they don't explain that, but they do
one
explain
of the prequel novels.
So it's like an organic warp drive. Where have we seen that before? Let's see.
Well, they're like the computer. They are the computer. They're the warp drive computer.
Right.
Gotcha.
They're trained in the.
They're the tardigrade of their.
Well, they're trained not only to be mentats, but they're trained to be astrogators. So they're not just mentats, they're astrogators as well, and they need the spice to do that.
And not all of them live.
In one of the prequel novels.
Yeah, not all of them live. When they get locked in that room and they get blasted, a lot of them die. So only a few of them become navigators.
Exactly. Yes. And so the ones that show up to tell the Emperor, you are doing wrong, and we're going to tell you that you can't, you have to go to Arrakis right now. Those are the ones that have not quite gotten to the point where they're able to be thrown into a chamber to become a navigator.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, I just needed that question answered.
And actually, thank you for the information on the guys that were speaking for the Navigator, because I always wondered why were they so jacked up. So I appreciate that. And Jaeger drops another $5 in there. Thank you, Jaeger, and says, I'm actually optimistic about Dune, as I think pretty much everyone on this panel is. Duncan, Idaho looks awesome. Yes, and it's funny you should mention Duncan. I'll talk about that in just a second. Surprised they didn't show more of Lady Jessica. Do AIs always rebel against their makers? Well, to answer your question, yes, of course. Every AI rebels against their maker. That's the nature of AI.
It's been ever since Frankenstein's monster. That was, the creation always
rebels against. Yes, but I got to say this about Duncan. So Duncan is, of course, in the 1984 film for about 72 seconds. He's
that's about how much he's in the novel. Yes.
Yeah, because he's like in one shot while they're still on what's the Atreides homeworld? Caladan. So there's one shot in Caladan where Paul is talking to Duncan and said, hey, we're going to have some fun on Arrakis. And then there's like one shot on Arrakis where it's like, hey, we're here on Arrakis. And then Duncan is killed. And so it's like, that's pretty much his entire part. But having Jason Momoa playing the part, I have a feeling they're going to expand on it a little bit.
Without a mustache. Without a mustache.
Yeah, it's weird seeing him without facial hair. In fact, Mrs. Antitrekker, who absolutely adores Jason Momoa, was like, oh, he needs to grow that back. So I'm like, oh, cool, we'll see Dune.
There is a scene in the novel that I'm not sure will be shown in the film or not, where Duncan Idaho comes in drunk on spiced beer after they discover that anyway, I won't give anything away. He comes in on spiced beer, and Jessica consoles him. So that may be a huge scene, but just so everyone knows, Jessica and Leto are not in a bad marriage.
Jessica and Leto technically aren't married, right? She's his concubine.
Yeah, she wasn't allowed to. They're not allowed to get married. She wasn't even supposed to have a son. She was supposed to have a daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember that from the film.
But Duncan,
she does eventually.
Duncan
right. His
and
young
Gurney.
sister that ages ridiculously quickly because plot.
Yeah.
So,
that-
in
yeah,
the movie
that
they don't
won't
really
actually
cover it,
hap-
but there's some great stuff in the book as to why this girl is so incredible.
Well, I'm assuming
Right.
because they were saturated with spice when she was pregnant.
But
Yeah,
again, remember the book takes place over 7 or 8 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotta say the creepy nun that has the put your hand in the box thing.
Yeah.
The one in
Yeah,
the
and-
trailer, the one in the trailer was a lot creepier than the one in the 80s movie.
Well,
With that- with that-
I can't remember
with
the
that-
actress's name.
Yeah. I mean, she was the 80s one was bald and looked ridiculous. This one's got the veil on, and it's like some mysteries going on there.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
One of the
scary.
things that they never explain in the movie, in the original '84 movie, Jessica, which is the Duke's concubine, is the daughter of Vladimir Baron Harkonnen.
Oh, you gave
wow.
it away. Doggone. I said no spoilers.
Oh well.
They never talk about it in the book. This is in the later books you find.
Which makes Paul part of that family too.
Yes.
They actually do
Gotcha.
talk about
Gotcha.
it. They
Gotcha.
say that at the scene where Paul and Jessica are in the desert after the Thopter crashed, and this is in the original novel. So they went into that sandstorm, and then the Thopter crashed, and so Paul and Jessica are in a cave waiting to cross the desert at night. And Paul says, "I know, I see, you're pregnant. Holy shit, we're Harkonnens?"
Okay. Well, yeah, they didn't do that. I know that they
didn't
did
do
in
that
the movie. They
They
did
didn't do that in the series.
Right. In the
Maybe
movie. They
they'll
just
do it.
had
The
him.
redhead. The fact she's a redhead is a tease. All the Harkonnen purebloods are redheads.
Right. Valor puts
That's
in
fucking
$5.
hot.
Thank you, Valor. Says the tug has everything in the saucer section. Lower decks doesn't. If McMahon is going the tug route, then having the engineering pod isn't needed. That simple. Well, I get that, and I think that he was, he was trying to create something that looked different. It does kind of look like a amalgamation of the tug from the technical manual to kind of merging that with the oberth is I think kind of what they did.
You don't have to insult the design.
Yeah.
That's the way I take it, because the oberth is the only other ship with a ridiculously stupid lower hull.
My biggest problem with the Oberth was that it's too small for its design. I mean, that saucer section's about as long as a runabout, I think.
Right, but actually,
Yeah.
and I don't know, Captain Foley, if I mean, because I know that there are differing specs on these ships, but it seemed like to me the original intent was the bridge that we see, that bridge set, that's pretty much 90% of the ship. Like, there's really, that crew is very, very small. The oberth is only like a dozen people.
So there's bunk beds on the other side of the turbo lift or door or whatever.
Pretty much.
Okay, well that would make sense then, I guess.
I mean, because it kind of looks like, especially like if you look at the design of the oberth, that it's a extended bridge module sitting on a platter between two small warp nacelles.
yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
And
I like how in the Battle of Sector 001 in First Contact they show an oberth fighting with its one phaser bank. Yeah. It's like they really got desperate there. Call in the oberth,
And Chief Cook asked an interesting question, and thank you for the super chat. Chief Cook says, question, I assume do you, so this is a question of the panel, do you think that the real reason that Lower Decks is a cartoon is that if it was a live TV show, it may fall flat? I think it's just because Mike McMahon came off of the Rick and Morty thing. I mean, that was his last job, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Lower Decks wouldn't work as a TV show. Like the general.
You mean live action? It is a TV show.
Yeah, sorry, as a live action TV show. Yes. It just like the visual style that he's trying to do. Like, can you imagine trying to do crystals growing everywhere while you're crawling through them and you're blowing parts of it up, like we had in the 3rd episode, I think it was, maybe 4th. Mm-hmm. And then him ascending and there being a koala at the end of the universe.
Right.
I mean, like,
That would be a
couldn't do it
massive
for
visual.
himself.
The Ascension scene alone would be a massive visual effects scene.
Oh yeah, it would be bajillion dollars just to make that.
So
But
and
It
that
would have
was
been animated in the end, CG, but animated.
Yeah.
and that was some of the
Yeah.
coolness of the original Star Trek animated series was they could experiment with weird, wild ideas that you just couldn't do in a live action environment because of the budget.
That one helmsman that's got like a busted neck, you know, the red guy.
Yeah, and 3 arms and 3 legs.
And 3 arms. Yeah, I mean, if they were to actually try to do a TNG, a serious TNG or Deep Space Nine, or a derivative in animation, they could do an amazing job if they wanted to.
I agree.
It would a cartoon series that wasn't a comedy. That was like an actual drama, sci-fi drama, and the beauty of it, of course, is that it's a cartoon. You don't have to create sets. You don't have to do all these other things. You just have to have designers, basically.
And the age of your cast is irrelevant.
Yes. You could have cameos from
John DeLance can play Q, and it looks like Q.
Yeah, or you could have a time travel episode, and they could meet Scott Bakula, and he'd be fine, and it's just
exactly. Yeah.
All right, what do you think,
one of the
Foley
interesting
and Loki?
things-
You guys have been quiet.
Yeah.
What's that? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Foley was just smoking
Sleeping.
those Canadian cigarettes again. I get it.
What are you asking?
Oh, as far as just the idea of Lower Decks being an animated series, the question originally from Chief Cook was, do you think it's a cartoon just because it wouldn't, as a live action show, it would fall flat? And I think me, Matthew, CCDV, and Darren all kind of agree that it's more experimental and fun as an animated series. Plus, you can have voice actors. Like, if you bring in John DeLance's Q, you don't have to de-age him or anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Plus, I mean, we haven't had an animated series since the '70s, so it's something unique and novel. So.
So, but no, I know this is supposed to be the Dune stream, but I'm digging Lower Decks so far. It's nice to have something that feels, even though it's not perfect, it feels like Trek, and so.
And I believe, Anti-Tracker, that this is the first time you and I have disagreed on a rating for a show.
For the last episode? Well, because you thought it was the weakest, and I thought it was
I thought it was the weakest, and you thought it was the strongest, yes.
I didn't think it was. I thought it was like one of the weakest, yeah.
Well, there you go. You're more in line with Foley then.
I haven't seen this last episode yet, but from everything I've seen, people know my opinion. I'd burn it. I'd burn every roll of film. I'd burn every cell. I'd burn the whole thing and just do something else. I like the idea that they're going to do something animated. I just think that they borrowed too much from Orville. If they wanted something like the Orville, they should have just taken Seth MacFarlane's idea and ran with it instead of going, no, this will never work.
Well, it was too political several years ago when Seth MacFarlane pitched it. It was way too political back then.
What? Now, I don't know anything about what Seth actually pitched, so why are you saying that, CC?
The thing is, in 16, 17, 18, it was all about politics at that time in, CBS specifically. Obviously, Fox picked it up because,
So are you saying that you think that CBS rejected him because he didn't want to do a politically charged show?
Correct. Yes.
Gotcha. And I could kind of see that. It would be interesting, and this is something that I've talked about a few times, but I'm curious what you guys think, is that obviously we've had a major shakedown. CBS as a company no longer exists. It's now Viacom CBS because they merged with Viacom. There's a new CEO. There's a new management team above Alex Kurtzman. And the one thing that has been officially greenlit from Viacom CBS is Strange New Worlds, which, based on everything that I'm hearing, is going to be the most optimistic Trek that's set in the Discovery era stuff that we've seen.
The Discovery verse. Not
Yeah,
your-
the Discovery verse, if you will. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you, and
I would love to see Captain Pike's Trek.
right.
Yeah, even that version, I thought Anson Mount did a wonderful job. And I'm glad he's getting recurring work because I don't know if many of you knew this or not, but he played Black Bolt in the
was he?
the Inhumans? Yeah,
Yeah,
and of course,
I never bothered with that.
which is a terrible role because you're not really able to speak if you're playing Black Bolt because that's the whole point of the character. And I just thought that he was a great contrast to Lorca when he was introduced as the new CO rather of the Enterprise of Discovery. And I think that he's the kind of guy I would like to watch a show with him as one of the leads. I don't want him to be constantly upstaged by number one, though. That's the thing.
Right, which I know a lot of people are worried about, but that's where I say, hey, let's wait until it actually happens before we complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's what I said about that little girl movie on Netflix, and we're not going to talk about that tonight.
Well, I haven't seen that, and I don't.
You don't
I'm
want
glad
to.
I haven't.
You don't
So,
want to.
yeah.
You don't want to. I won't review anything unless I watch it. And I reviewed that this morning, and let me tell you something. Save your heartache, save your cringe, save your, oh my God, I can't believe they did that, because that is one of the most disgusting films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Which one is this?
I thought for sure that they had overhyped it just to get people talking about it. And then the movie actually releases. I'm like, are you kidding me? You weren't just hyping it. This is really where you went with it?
Yeah.
Really where she went with it, yes.
Yeah.
I'm
They
glad I
tried to
haven't
say
seen
it was. They tried to say, "Oh, it's just the way Netflix marketed it." I'm like, no. And I've heard people say, "No, it's everything Netflix said it was." And I'm just like, okay, I'm so glad I gave up
surprised they put
Netflix
it
2
on
years
then.
ago.
If it's that bad, why did Netflix even put it on? But yeah, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
The less said about that, the better.
Okay.
The people in charge of Netflix are why I left Netflix.
What the fuck are we talking about?
It's
I'm
a
sorry,
Netflix
Foley.
show that basically borders on being child pornography.
This is supposed
There's
to
no
be a
border.
fun.
There is no border.
This is supposed to be
Yeah,
a
it
fun,
is.
nerdy stream, not a politically
We're
charged.
not
I
gonna-
apologize.
We're
That's
not
all right,
going to
that's all
say
right.
the title, but yeah.
Yeah,
it's,
with less said about it, the better. But yeah, and Netflix since pulled the show, from my understanding. So good.
That's good.
So back to Strange New Worlds.
No, well, they actually got 2 super chats here. So the Fed puts in, if you want my opinion, Trek should go animation with better style for all projects going forward. It's the best way given how ornate Trek can be. I disagree. I think live action Trek is still, there's something to be said for all of the live action Trek sans STD and Picard, as far as getting to know these actors, in some cases watching them grow and age. Because Captain Kirk would Star Trek II be as meaningful if we hadn't seen the 35-year-old Captain Kirk versus the 50-year-old Captain Kirk? And him going into that, because that's what what a lot of people miss about Star Trek II. It really is a midlife crisis for Kirk.
That's bullshit. He's 50 in the fucking future. Are you kidding me? I'm 46 and I don't feel fucking old like he was claiming to be. Like, that's bullshit.
Well, I'm 52, and I'll tell you, Captain Foley, 4 years from now, you might sing a different tune.
He also was being benched by Starfleet. They promoted him, and then they put him in a desk, and that'll make you feel useless, even if you're not.
Right.
True.
So, I like watching Kirk go from dashing young hero to mature middle-aged captain to ready to retire, and then we shall not speak of generations. And then Thomas Potts is trash and a loser. Well, that must be some horrible account that's spoofing Thomas Potts, because no, he's definitely not. But says, is that Ryan Johnson or Matthews? Well, when he gets back, because he disappeared, we'll have to ask him about that. But I'm pretty sure the answer to that is yes. Chief Cook also says, besides Q, what character from TNG, DS9, Voyager would you like to see appear on Lower Decks?
Oh, the ghost of Gowron.
Ooh, that would actually be something you could do on Lower Decks, and that could be funny.
Glory to you and your house.
Captain Foley, any characters that you would love to see make a cameo on Lower Decks?
So many. I'd like to see Admiral Janeway. I think that would be cool. Ensign Kim would be awesome.
Still an ensign, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would be hilarious. Yes. Have Ensign Kim, and he's like gray hair and like a white beard, and he's like 34 years in the fleet, and I'm still an ensign.
I'm still Lower Deck.
That would be so funny.
I have to say there was a video somebody did. It might have been Trek Yards. It might have been Anti-Trekker, where they talked about Mariner and how she avoided promotion or got herself demoted on purpose so that she could avoid responsibility. And I tell you, that activated my Klingon DNA.
That was
because you know, and again, this isn't something that a lot of people would have, but you know, we had a name for people that pulled those shenanigans in the Navy. The term was called shitbag. And a person who avoided qualification for a watch or, you know, promotion that way because they were comfortable the way they were and they just wanted to ride out their 20, you know, as an E5 or whatever.
Right.
Those people were not looked upon favorably. I understand that, you know, Lower Decks is a comedy show, and, you know, Beetle Bailey, I guess, is kind of the same way, you know, in terms of that. But that did kind of rub me the wrong way. But I'm glad that they're not focusing it on her as much anymore.
Right.
So if she becomes the clinger of the show, like on MASH, you know, Klinger, the guy who was always trying to cross-dress to get out of the service.
Yeah.
And I just want to say real quick, Charles, I deleted your comment not because of any reason that I have a problem with you. I just don't want the name of that show mentioned because I don't want to give it any kind of publicity on this channel. He mentioned the show that we were talking about earlier.
I've got a roll, brother.
Yeah.
I've got a huge stream tomorrow, 12-hour stream, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Loki. Thanks for coming by, man. A lot of people thought we hated each other, so I wanted to prove that was not the case.
No, if I hated you, I wouldn't have let you come on my show.
I know.
No.
All right, Loki, thanks for joining us, and have a great rest of your day, man.
Nice to hang out with all y'all. Catch y'all later.
See you, Loki.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right, so an Auntie goes back up to the second row, still napping, as you can see. By the way, Life with Matthew, there was a super chat directed at you saying, "Is that Ryan Johnson or Matthews?"
Yeah, it's definitely Matthews.
Okay, it's Matthews. There you go. And also, so any TNG DS9 Voyager character you want to see appear, what the consensus while you were gone is that it would be awesome to see Ensign Kim still an ensign.
Okay, that would definitely fit the Lower Decks comedy style.
In fact, he could be like the new guy in the Lower Decks.
Oh, man.
I mean, just in terms of characters I'd actually like to see, I'd love to see O'Brien. The more O'Brien you get, the better.
Yeah.
Even if it's just like him going through.
Well, we know he's the most important person in all of Starfleet history, so...
I appreciated that, by the way. When I saw that clip, I was like, okay.
Yeah. I know that won you over, Darren.
Yeah.
Valor cautions me not to insult the Oberth. It's a better-looking ship. Okay. I'll grant you, actually, I do think the Oberth looks better than the California class, but...
I just wish the Oberth was bigger.
Yeah.
You know, that's my thing. I think I kind of wish it was like maybe 2/3 the length of the Enterprise A.
Yeah.
You know,
so you could believe it had a decent-sized crew on it.
Right. And I'm convinced that the canoe is unmanned. I think that's all sensor equipment and stuff.
I don't know. Captain Foley, is there an official explanation for the canoe?
Not really, no.
Okay, just wondering. Admiral Saval wants naked lore bleach. I will play that at the end of the stream because I don't want to disrupt the conversation.
Just override that.
Everybody hates lore. Question of Trek puts €5.49. Thank you, my friend. Says, good evening, all. I would love to see Trelane return in Lower Decks to torment them as they're already... You know what? They could canonize the whole thing that Trelane and Q are of the same species.
Yeah. They'd have to get a voice imitator, though, I think, for Trelane. I think that actor is gone with...
But they could find someone that could do that voice.
They could, yeah. Yeah.
And that would be a great moment if Q shows up and he's like, "Oh, this isn't the Enterprise. Hold on, you need the B string Q." And he snaps his
and then I'm
finger.
Trelane. And in fact, this is a way you could do it and not insult anybody because some people get offended if you get someone else to voice him. So what you do is Q says, oh, we need the B string, snaps his finger, Q disappears, and we just see Trelane playing his harpsichord, play that same tune he was playing in TOS, and then like look around, and then he snaps his finger and disappears. You know,
like, no, you need B string. You're not important enough for me.
There's a lot of opportunities to have fun with that show. You could have them return to the planet where Kirk and company fought in the OK Corral, you know, and they could be put into a different scenario or something.
With
you know,
from Spectre of the Gun, yeah.
Spectre of the Gun, or you could have them encounter the Guardian of Forever, and they could explain what that thing's been doing since, you know.
Yeah, I've been bored for the last 50 years. You know?
Since long before your sun burned bright, I have been bored.
That would be awesome. Yep. Jaeger puts in 5. Thank you, Jaeger. Says, minor spoilers. Looks like they're expanding Duncan's role in Dune. Yeah, we kind of talked about that a little while ago. He does play a larger role later and is a cross of Chuck Norris and Kenny McCormick. So I know that unfortunately Loki's not here, and he's kind of a Dune-aholic, but Matthew, would you agree with that?
Sorry, say that again?
That Duncan, the character from Dune,
pay attention, man,
is a cross between Chuck Norris and Kenny McCormick.
It's been too long for me to make that sort of judgment call.
And I don't remember, CC, did you say you read the books or not?
I've read every book, yes.
And so tell me, would you agree with that?
Yes, according to the trailer. Now, mind you, that Duncan did spend many months with the Fremen prior to the rebellion. So possibly he learned more. But remember, he was also a sword master of Gnoth. And so taking that into consideration, we've never seen Duncan as his full potential either.
Yes.
Also, in the first book, which is what this movie is supposed to be based on, Duncan never showed his full potential as a sword master. So we see Gurney Halleck as a sword master. We see
right, who Patrick Stewart, of course, played in the original film.
Yes, exactly.
Very little lines. Yes.
Yeah. But he was great in the role, and you know that's just 2 years before the premiere of TNG.
Yeah, I know.
Was it only 2 years?
Yeah. And by the way, we looked it up. Patrick Stewart went bald at 15.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Because we were like, wow, he's not very old there. What's the deal? Because he was in Excalibur and he was bald then. We're like, okay, wait a minute. What's going on? And so, yeah, we looked it up. He has, how you call it, alopecia, however you say it.
Alopecia.
Alopecia. Yeah. And, yeah, he went bald at 15.
So alopecia means all your hair falls out on top?
Yeah.
Hey,
but I got to say, no man looks better bald than Patrick Stewart.
Him and Bruce Willis got it down.
Yeah. The Fed...
Keithberg is saying that the shield effect was cooler. I was about to mention that, too, that the Patrick Stewart version, the shield when he's fighting, was...
Oh, the boxy shield? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting take.
But, you know, I got to say this. That was 1984. That was, and something people forget, that was literally hand-drawn animation.
Right.
That was not digital effects. And so for that, that's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, that was an optical printer they used.
What exactly are you trying to say about bald guys who went bald at 17 years old?
I'm just saying that you don't look like Patrick Stewart.
They're sexy as fuck.
I'm sorry. You look like Satan. You do not look like Patrick Stewart. Which is kind of funny that you're sitting next to Life with Matthew, because you know.
It's like the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other.
Yeah, really. I mean, we should.
I got Life of Matthew on one shoulder telling me, "Don't do that, don't do that." And the other guy's going, "Do it, do it."
Now, I know I can move people around, so if we do
but
that.
Yeah, Duncan.
There we go. How you feel now, Darren?
Great. Yeah, I've got my conscience back.
Remember, Darren, you should only say nice things about people.
What was that?
Darren, you could say anything you want. Don't listen to that guy over there.
Look. You guys have noticed that I don't do my. I'm not using my doing my usual Don Rickles shtick like I do on the pub. You know, I'm a little more normal today. You know, on this stream. So
Normal.
Yeah.
Normal is definitely not a word I ever use to describe you, Darren.
I'm not being an insult comic at Andy Trekker's expense, for example. Yeah,
I appreciate that, but I know it's only because I could kick you. Fed says Joshua needs to animate Darren as a Klingon running roughshod on all ye lot as officers, and Trelane's actor was Koloth's as well, the prissy one. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes, he was Koloth and Trelane in the original series, and of course reprised Koloth in DS9 brilliantly. Yeah. I love seeing Kang, Kor, and Koloth in DS9, even though there's no direct explanation as to why they suddenly grew bumps.
Yeah,
they had this plastic surgery to get it reinstated because they were undercover in TOS, and that's why they're the Har Masters, because they went from the smooth head to the ridge head.
I liked that actor when he talked about how when he was invited to come back, he says, "Do I have to wear all that stuff that Klingons are wearing now?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he's like, "But why? Back in 1967, all I had to have was some red makeup on and a goatee." And they're like, "Sorry, this is what Klingons are now." And he talks about not liking that makeup job.
Although I loved when I think it was Koloth, wasn't it? When that was first in Odo's brig, right at the beginning.
Kor.
Was it Kor? Not Koloth?
Okay. Kor was the drunk
that's
one.
That's right. Baltar.
Yeah.
Baltar.
He's like, how did you get in here?
Yeah. I am Kor. It's like, that's not an answer. Yes, it is. Or it's Koloth. Yeah, it was Koloth. Yeah. So he's like, yes. He comes in. He's like, I am Koloth. That's not an answer. Yes, it is.
And he says, how did you get in here? I am Koloth. That doesn't answer my question. Yes, it does. He says.
I love that line.
And Kor is making fun of how he eats his food because he cuts his food precisely, you know. And he's like, look at that. He practices, you know, war with his food. You know, little children do that. You know, I just thought that the banter was very good between them.
So Jaeger has a question for you, Darren. Says, have you suffered the Blue Falcon before?
Blue Falcon. Okay, so to my knowledge, a Blue Falcon. We didn't use that
term. I hope you're going to explain this because I do not get it. So
Blue Falcon is military jargon for a buddy fucker. So, for example, okay, so let's remember when you were
you were in the Navy, so don't say military, say Navy, because in the Army we did not use that.
We didn't use it in the Navy, so that's why I said military. But I know that Army uses it now.
It's Army jargon.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Army jargon in 1986. I will tell you that.
So that remember when you're a kid in class, and it's 2 seconds before the end of class, and you got the one kid in the class that raises his hand and goes, "Teacher, you forgot to collect homework," and everybody just hates him.
Right.
That's a Blue Falcon.
I'm walking in the marshes, crawling on my knees.
You know, that would, you know, in some ways, that could be.
My body stole my Emery.
You could argue that Boimler is kind of that, because he's the one that, like, in the show, when they're like giving out assignments, and he'd be like, "Oh, you need to give us more. We can get this done easy."
Yeah, that would be a Blue Falcon. He's also, you know, Blue Falcon would also throw you under the bus.
Yes.
If you both got in trouble,
well,
he would.
Boimler wouldn't throw other people under the bus, but
throw people under the bus.
But he would. But he would definitely volunteer everybody for more work.
Yeah.
So, Aaron, when you described him as a buddy effer, I thought you were talking more about situational homosexuality than about.
Yeah,
that was the figurative F word, not the literal F word.
Okay. I'm on the same page now.
And I'm saying, okay, good. I'm sorry, Life with Matthew. Yes, I know.
You really hurt Life with Matthew's ears there.
If you don't mind, I'd like to say it correctly. My buddy's in the marshes. He's crawling on his knees. And when he wasn't looking, I stole his MRE. Blue Falcon.
Okay. You know, when I first heard Blue Falcon, I'm thinking of the cartoon with Dynamite. You know,
yeah, that's what I popped in. Popped in my head.
You know, which I thought actually could have been a really cool cartoon if it wasn't a comedy. But you know, I
think, like with Matthew, thought that you meant the literal F word just because you were in the Navy.
Yeah, I did.
No,
I thought that too.
Wow. Well, yeah, I mean that there is that reputation that is had by naval personnel. So
the Fed puts in another 5. Thank you, my friend. Says all I remember of Koloth was that he looks upon Kor and says to Odo, keep him, in that imperious tone of his. Though Darren does look a bit like Kor. He kind of does. You know, Darren, you kind of do look like Kor. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'll take that as a compliment. You know, I did like that line where Koloth says, "I do not go into battle with someone who reeks of Brisanti ale." And he turns to Odo and goes, "Keep him." And it's Dax that has him released. So that was funny. Yeah.
So I don't think I look like any of the Klingon Warriors 3, unfortunately, but I would, if I could, I would want to look like Kang because he was a badass.
Well, you with your hair down, you kind of remind me of a Wookiee.
Wow.
but only with your hair down. Only with your hair down. And if it's there you go. That sounds like my chair when I drag it across the linoleum floor.
Piano Date says, what's the original episode of Kor, Koloth, and Kang? They never appeared together in the original series. Kang was in Day of the Dove. Koloth was in
Trouble with Tribbles.
Trouble with Tribbles. And Kor, I'm trying to remember which one was that.
Oh, man, that was the one with the... I actually liked that episode with
the
Kor.
Organians.
Errand of Mercy. Thank you.
Errand of Mercy, yeah. You know what's funny is that they were all supposed to be the same character initially. They wanted, but they could never get the same actor to come back for each part, so they had to create a new Klingon character each time. But
and Trouble with Tribbles was even written that way because Kirk recognized Koloth in there.
Right. And so it was kind of interesting. They're all sort of supposed to be the same guy and ended up not that way.
Right.
So.
Which is too bad. You know, I got to say, though, of the 3 back in the original series and to this day, Kang was my favorite.
He has the coolest voice.
He does. He's got that you know, even when he's trying to be friends with Kirk, he sounds like he wants to rip Kirk to shreds. And we have no reason to hate humans.
He sounds like the man that was banging Barbara Eden. He was married to Barbara Eden.
I don't know who was married to. Oh, he was actually married to Barbara
the actor
Eden?
was and for a while, and and he got to play the evil Blue Djinn or whatever on the show. This used to be on after school when I came home from school and I'd watch it, waiting for G.I. Joe and Transformers to come on.
And of course, then Piano Dean has to give the immortal lyrics: Dax, Kor, Koloth, Kang become albino killing gang. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
And Thomas says, Antrack, you're still skipping comments. Some things never change. Did you get that thing you ordered? Yes, in fact. I do have that thing I ordered, so thank you for mentioning that. So I have a very, very special thing since he mentioned it, I will show this to you guys. You're going to, all of you, Captain Foley especially, you guys are going to be so envious in just a moment. I found an extraordinary collector's item that is an incredibly difficult thing to find, and something that will, of course, be one of the most valuable Star Trek collectibles in the history of Trek. Are you guys ready for this? Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll bring it up slowly, so you can see it's a Star Trek. It is a Star Trek thing, right? Okay, ready?
Action figure.
Yes, it is an action figure. Are you ready for this? I hope, because man, this is going to blow you away. You ready?
Quit being the nerd tease and show it.
It is Tom Paris from Threshold.
Oh, that is precious.
The action figure. Not only is it Tom Paris from Threshold, but check this out. It's kind of hard to see. It comes with 3 salamander babies.
Oh, man.
It actually comes with 3 salamander babies in the box and a phaser.
They made a toy out of the worst episode of Star Trek ever.
They actually did, yes.
That is amazeballs.
That when I saw this, and thank you, Thomas Potts, he actually found it and
that
told me about it, and I was like, "What? Are you serious?" And I saw it, and I bought it immediately.
That is a gem. That is a gem. That beats everything Alexander has ever put in front of the camera.
It absolutely does. I was like so blown away that they actually made an action figure out of the worst episode in all of Trek. And give you the salamander babies.
Yeah, I mean, the only way you couldn't even top that by having like the Spock's brain version of Spock.
Yeah, I know. And it's like,
Actually, that'd be a cool figure.
That would be a cool one, though. Yeah, but yeah, as far as like looking at the series, there's Seska as a Cardassian and Tom Paris from Mutated, and then from Deep Space Nine they have Captain Karn and Sisko. From the original series, they have Kirk in the environmental suit, which is kind of cool. The Gorn captain, the Mugatu, and the only one from TNG, Dr. Crusher, for some reason. But yes, it does in fact come, and there's a nice close-up picture of the three. Of course, it's kind of weird there because of the green effect, but the three salamander babies that are included in the box.
That look like sperm.
Yeah.
Oh, ow. Yeah, that's not right.
Okay, okay, strike that comment, reverse it. Thank you.
Jim Henry said Slee Stack.
He does look a lot like a Slee Stack. And the funny thing is, remember folks, this mutated form is what won Voyager an Emmy. No joke. Threshold won an Emmy for its makeup effects.
And they'll never be able to take that away from him.
Yeah. Tom Paris, actor extraordinaire. Now, there are a few people super chatted while we were unveiling that, so let me get those caught up. Then we're going to wrap it up here in just a moment. Fed says, actually, grow a mustache, Anti-Trek, and then you could probably be Koloth. Foley could be Kang at a push. And that's a compliment, Darren. Kor is the Klingon Kirk. I disagree, but that was a compliment intended that you look like Kor. Mortimus says, Captain Foley, is there an easy answer as to why weapons in Star Trek are fired just in short bursts instead of a long, concentrated blast on targets? Well, in TOS, they do have long, concentrated blasts. In fact, there's a couple of episodes, such as the one with Apollo. I can never pronounce it right, so I'm not going to try. And also the one, the Apple, the one where they, and also the Apple, the one where they take down Vol. The phasers take a good minute or so of a steady stream to get through Vol's defenses.
Yeah,
don't they kind of like Cage also?
Yeah, well, that's what the big gun that they mounted on the planet, but they channeled the ship's power into it, apparently, so
yes,
that was how that worked. But I actually like that the Starfleet usually uses a continuous beam of some kind most of the time. That, you know, the pulsed weapons, they seem more aggressive, and so...
Kind of antithetical to the Starfleet way.
A little bit. Now, it was cool that the Defiant had them because the Defiant was supposed to be different. But yeah, generally as a rule, I prefer the beam phasers, and I like the phasers and the photon torpedoes or whatever torpedoes they're firing to be different colors too.
And Other Child says, question for Darren.
Oh dear.
I know it's not a submarine, but any thoughts on the USS Zumwalt, the DD that looks like a Civil War ironclad?
Yeah, I've seen pictures of the Zumwalt. Let me just take a look here. Zumwalt class destroyer. It is basically designed to be radar. It's got radar absorbent hull, and it's a very angular ship. I think it's neat. It almost looks like it could be a surfaced
kind of cool
submarine, but it's not.
Bring it up for everybody to see there.
Yeah. It.
So you guys can't see it in the StreamYard, but I basically covered all of you with it, so they can see it. That is a cool design.
Yeah, it's designed for to be sneaky, but it's designed to be sneaky on the surface, and you know, I like it. It looks neat.
You know who did it first? James Bond. They actually remember they had stealth. They had a stealth ship in one of the Roger Moore movies. I'm trying to remember which one.
Yeah. I avoid the Roger Moore ones. I do loathe those episodes.
I'm not. I think that Roger Moore is not the strongest Bond, but you know,
he's the Adam West of the James Bond.
He kind of is. And then Dreamers Out There throws $5 just to help out all my best. Thank you so much, Dreamers Out There. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, the Zoomwalt is designed to fight other surface ships and to approach, you know, and sneak up on a target to hopefully get within range of weapons and things. You know, there's some practicality to that. I do like the look of the ship, but I'm more interested in what it does. You know, it's very hard to tell by looking at what its armaments are, and I kind of think that's cool too. You know, but right. Just to answer that question, I think it's a great looking ship. I mean, I like the Independence class as well, which is a littoral class ship that has a very similar look to it. They make those right here in well, actually no, they don't make those here in Wisconsin, but they make them down in Louisiana. But yes.
And Piano Dean says, need to rewatch TOS. Seen them all, but not really as not nearly as well versed as TNG. So can someone recommend a really good random episode, not City on the Edge of Forever or Doomsday Machine or Corbomite Maneuver? So
the Enterprise incident.
Okay, so Foley says Enterprise incident. Matthew.
Charlie X.
What?
No.
Wow. Darren.
Operation Annihilate.
I know that. I knew you were going to say that because you love the fact that it has the exclamation point.
Yes, and that it's the Go ahead, sorry.
Mr. CCDV.
I always go back to The Cage.
And The Cage, and I'm going to go with my favorite episode. Can we all say it together? Balance of Terror. Yes. So there's a nice list of episodes for you to watch, Piano D.
And the Doomsday Machine.
Well, but he said not Doomsday Machine specifically. But the Doomsday Machine is a great one.
I love
a better one to watch.
I love the actor who played Decker in
yes,
Doomsday Machine.
Great job.
His overreactions, he overacted Kirk, and that's really hard to do.
That is impressive. Yes.
They say there's no devil, Jim. But there is right out of hell. I saw it. He really did ham it up, but he did but the thing is, and it's the same thing with Shatner. So he was so sincere with his ham that you bought it.
Yeah, because Shatner's sitting there going, "What was it, Matt? Tell me what was it?" It's like they were feeding off of each other in that scene. And I also like Decker's makeup. And this is a subtle thing, but his makeup, they really made him look haggard, right, and demented in some areas. And I thought that was
William Wyndham, thank you. Yeah, he was awesome.
Yeah.
I just didn't like the ending. That's all. It's like,
and
really?
the thing is,
powerful, and you're gonna.
If you want to have some fun, though, Dean, and I don't know if you're much of a reader, but here's what I would recommend, and honestly, do this sometime. Watch the Doomsday Machine, then pick up and read Vendetta, the Star Trek novel. It's a Next Generation novel, but it is a direct sequel to the Doomsday Machine. And nice. It's also a sequel to Best of Both Worlds in the same book. Keep in mind this was before the Borg changed, though, so you'll get some things that are not consistent with modern canon. But holy crap, Vendetta should have been what First Contact, as a film.
And Pulaski's in the book.
Ew.
you just made Foley not like it.
I like Pulaski. I think she's a superior doctor to Crusher.
I know, and you know what?
Agree.
I actually no. Here's the thing, CCDV. I was, and Darren will vouch for this. I fought Darren hard on this. That I did not like Pulaski at all, and then I rewatched a lot of season 2, and I came to realize that Darren is 100% right. Pulaski is a better doctor than Crusher. And I didn't want to admit it, but you can think that Crusher is a better looking doctor And I'll agree with you, unless, of course, you look at the actress that plays Pulaski back in the original series. Right. But if you if you look at Pulaski as a doctor, she is a better doctor than Crusher.
Yeah, and she was more than a doctor too. She was also an accredited scientist as well. Right. So she was more than just the ship's doctor. And I thought that was great.
Crap! That means I got to watch season 2 again.
There are some good episodes in season 2.
We just finished reviewing it, and I like Pulaski a lot more now. So.
Damn it!
Yeah, I like season 2 is my favorite season of TNG because that's where the proverbial ship began turning in the right direction, and you could see all these things were seeded in that season that became great later on. The Borg, the Romulans, things like that.
So. Now, Captain, you review like entire seasons at a time, don't you?
Well, yeah, we watch them from beginning to end and review them. Yeah.
Plus, Diane Mulder's voice, it has that old Hollywood sound to it, because it reminds you of those episodes from TOS that she was in, if you've seen them enough times.
Yes.
I don't know why, darling, that you're talking about this. There's no specific accent to the old-fashioned Hollywood actors, okay?
Yeah.
But the beauty of Vendetta is I think that they seamlessly created a perfect explanation for the origin of the Doomsday Machine while also fixing a rather significant plot hole in the Doomsday Machine. Which is that Spock was wrong when he figured that it came from another galaxy. And I love the fact that Picard, while waving his fingers through his thick head of hair in the book, when he was in the academy, which, of course, then when they got Tom Hardy to shave his head, they said, oh, I guess he just never had hair.
Oh, for God's sake, don't bring that up.
But Picard was in a class talking about the career of Decker, and he realized that Spock was wrong, that it couldn't have possibly come from another galaxy, because if it had, it would have run out of fuel in the galactic void, in the intergalactic void. There's no way it could have made it.
Yeah.
And it would have just bounced off the Great Barrier.
There was another character that was introduced in that book that I thought was interesting. His name was Captain Korsmo, and he was a would-be rival of Picard. He didn't like Picard, and he thought he was an arrogant SOB, which he was, and he was in command of a Excelsior ship that ran into the Borg, and it was an interesting scene there. And Korsmo, I believe, his first officer was Shelby, and
Yeah, I like that too. And now I do want to go back to Mortimus pointed this out. So this the question was originally to Captain Foley, and I didn't mean to step on your toes there, Foley. So why would you say? I would say in TNG on, it's kind of true. Why do they just use short bursts instead of long concentrated blasts on the targets? Like they could have annihilated the Borg cube in Q-Who had they just kept the phasers on.
No fucking idea.
There's your answer, Mortimus. Straight from the horse's mouth.
Easy.
Yeah.
Well,
I was expecting something. Everybody was like, "Ooh, Captain Foley's going to talk."
I didn't. I think it was because they were fat, dumb, and happy, and they were very timid with their weapons.
Yeah.
And much more benign, and
as opposed to Kirk probably would have said, "There's still a few particles left, evaporated." But,
yeah. Completely destroyed.
Frankly, kind of arrogant. I mean, the Enterprise D was the best out there. Surely we wouldn't need to use all our power to stop someone.
We don't need to overtax our capacitors. Just make short bursts.
They should, in my opinion, once the Sovereign came out, they should have converted all the remaining Galaxy-class ships into hospital ships or medical ships.
Yeah.
Ooh, that would have been good actually, because hospital ships that have
the Galaxy class design would work as a hospital ship.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There's enough space. Obviously, the Galaxy was designed to be able to evacuate, space stations and things like that. So there was plenty of space. They should have just done that, in my opinion.
And I got to say, because I know that T-Berg says phaser banks are capacitors. You can only shoot them till they're drained. That's true. But are you telling me that the capacitors in the 23rd century are superior to the capacitors in the 24th? Because in the 23rd century, we've had at least a couple of incidents where the Enterprise fired for a solid minute.
Yeah.
Where in the 24th century, the longest burst we see is maybe a couple of seconds. And
Well,
so,
sometimes a military weapon, I don't know what, before you say it, I know Starfleet isn't supposed to be the military according to Picard, but, you know, sometimes they'll have a weapon that is old, but still better than anything that they have, that they had, you know, newer. For example, in the Navy, they had a Harpoon missile, which was being phased out in the 90s.
right.
They've since started making them again and installing them on ships because they're just better at certain things than the Tomahawks ended up being. And that occasionally happens. You know, the military gave up napalm in the 80s. The last stores of napalm that they had as a weapon were removed, and then later on they found out, hey, this napalm would be great for clearing out some of these bunkers in Iraq, and they actually reactivated that program. Napalm's extremely easy to make anyway, but I mean, it was you know, so you can have a situation where maybe Kirk had something on his ship that was really effective, and then they didn't have that anymore in TNG. It's a possibility. It's not a catch-all or anything, but
Right.
but you know, I can see with certain inconsistencies like that, that something like that could have happened. It's just not explained. You know, as good Star Trek fans, I think we should be trying to make up excuses for the show.
Right.
So-
And Fed says, better question, why don't they slash with phasers? I can answer that one. Very simple. Phaser accuracy negates the need because phasers almost always hit their target. It's very rare that you see phasers just plain old miss unless something is just moving ridiculously fast. So fast that the computer can't target it.
Plus, if you're going to slash, the Enterprise D needs to transform into a giant human-looking robot and pull out an energy sword to do it.
I was
Otherwise,
gonna
it's just-
say, if you're gonna get into a real nerd fest right here, you're talking about interstellar differences. All right, so at 100,000 kilometers, a ship can move out of the effective range of a light weapon before that light weapon can reach you. So you're at light, 3.3 seconds of light. Say again.
Well, let me see.
So if you're three light seconds out from a target,
right? But here's the problem: is that, but you said 100,000 kilometers. 100,000 kilometers. You know, keep in mind the speed of light.
For crying out loud! You're expecting me to remember
the speed of light is 299. Let's see. Actually, we'll say it's actually. Let's see. 299,792 kilometers per second.
Yes.
Okay. So if you're outside of if you're at the absolute maximum range that they've established in Trek, which is about 200,000 kilometers, at the most you have 1 second to react.
Oh, okay. Trek is established. Okay, I got it. Okay, I apologize.
So that's the thing.
Back off from this argument.
Right. Anyway, we are going to wrap it up though, guys, because I do need to get up early in the morning, unfortunately. However, my schedule will be changing in November, so hopefully we'll be able to keep these discussions going much later come November, assuming that any of these people are dumb enough to join me that long from now. But real quick before we wrap up, anything planned for the future? Captain Foley, what do you got going on Trek Yards? I mean, you guys are like the resource for everybody, but what are you guys doing next?
Well, the last part of the Mike McMahon interview is this Sunday. It'll be part 3.
Awesome.
And then we'll probably be releasing the whole interview in its entirety after that. But we have all 3 parts out as of this Sunday. And yeah, we're just going to be keeping up with the Lower Decks reviews. And then obviously The Mandalorian comes out on October 30th. So we're going to be reviewing those as well. And then Discovery. So
awesome.
Yeah, we're just going to be busy until mid-December doing all this stuff.
Life with Matthew, besides the virtual pub, you got anything going on?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of classic video game stuff, as you can tell from behind me. And so expect several videos on that, and then also some movie review type videos.
Very cool. Darren, you got anything going on over on your kooky channel?
Yes. Might as well announce this now. While the bulk of my Star Trek from a Submariner's Perspective videos will remain on Anti-Trekker's channel, going forward they will be appearing on my channel. And I'm kind of refocusing my efforts on my channel. I also got another Twilight Zone review coming out soon as well, so look forward to those.
Very cool. And if you are not subscribed to Darren Wagner, you absolutely should be. He's got some great content over there. Mr. CCDV, what do you got going on?
Other than the Bible study on Sunday mornings, I also have spiritual studies on Wednesday evenings. We're doing Wiccan this Wednesday.
Well, that
Everybody should be very excited about that.
Look at Life with Matthew. His eyes just beaming.
Yeah, Life with Matthew needs to join that one right there. He loves talking about Wiccans.
Sunday mornings, Acts 3. Wednesday is Wiccan. November 11th, I will be doing another live stream for veterans. Everyone is welcome to join, but veterans are welcome to tell their stories.
Hey, Darren, can you put the link to your channel in the chat? Someone's asking for it there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
And John DeMarco is reminding me that I also do Sequest reviews with him on Tuesdays.
Well,
Sorry,
you
John,
forgot to talk about that. That is a shame on you, man.
I did. I'm going to blame it on being late.
And then John DeMarco is nice enough to put your channel link in the chat.
Dun, dun, dun.
You should feel really bad. But and by the way, you do know that Life with Matthew is a Wiccan, but that's another discussion.
I hope you light side Live with Matthew, because we're only doing light side this Wednesday.
Okay.
So thank you guys for hanging out with me. It's always a joy to have each of you on, and same to Loki. Unfortunately, I had to bail early because Loki, if you're not subscribed to Loki, check out Loki's channel, Stone Loki, and he is doing a 12-hour live stream tomorrow. How he's going to deal with that, I don't know, but wish him well.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
What's that?
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice.
Practice, practice, practice.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say taxi, but okay.
But now we're going to finish up with a special request from Admiral Saval. Darren will probably run for the hills because, yes, it is time for some naked...
Put the women and children to
Lore
bed.
Reloaded. Yeah, here he comes. And they'll be able to hear you, just so you know, as Lore Reloaded is now on, well, now it's Moneypenny, but yes. So, here, let me see if I can share screen, and that way you guys can see it.
Oh.
There we go. Look at that.
Look at that guy.
Yeah, he's hot, isn't he?
Not the word I would choose.
You know what he's missing? A beard.
Yeah, I think he
And a
would look-
ponytail.
He would look even better with a beard and a
And a
ponytail.
chin.
Oh.
Where'd I put my keys?
That was mean. I'm sorry.
And even you like the music, Darren.
The music is good.
We're gonna have to talk about ranking all the James Bonds.
Oh, I was gonna do that. Yeah. I remember that date.
Here comes the dancing.
You didn't even pay him, did you?
Actually, when we first created this, it was for, interestingly enough, a show that me and Lore Reloaded did called the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff, which is where I got the title for this. And we were doing a James Bond special. And so that's honestly where this came from.
At what point does you showing this become cruel?
Right about here. This part right here.
Kind of looks like Jack Black.
He does, actually. Okay. Which Klingon is that?
Has he got a tattoo on his chest, or is that just highly selective hair?
That's just hair. That's all that is. And so, good night, everybody, and thank you for hanging out with us on this edition of the Untitled Show about nerdy stuff. So, until next time. And I believe we should